Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Gamervision. I am one of your hosts, Jeff, and of course, again, through the power of technology, here's Tony from Procedurally Generated.
How's it going, everybody?
So, E3 has happened. The Summer Games
Certainly
Fest has
has.
has led into E3, and there's a lot to talk about. There's from the excitement to the disappointment to just everything in between. Pretty much if you were wanting game announcements, it happened. Um, so we had Square Enix, Ubisoft, Gearbox, Microsoft, Nintendo, Capcom, like everybody under the moon seemed to be doing some kind of show, whether people were thrilled about them or not. But I think to get kind of the negative thing out of the way with Square Enix, I don't know who's putting your show together. Um, it needs a lot of work. You started strong, Guardians of the Galaxy, no microtransactions, no loot
Yep.
boxes, a complete package on day one. Great. Um, Maybe you should have finished the conference with that one because Final Fantasy Origins didn't look very impressive.
Nah.
Um, the Pixel remasters collection, not a collection, and just ports of Final Fantasies 1 through 6 that you've already done to multiple platforms
Yeah.
already. Um, so, where was Final Fantasy 16? Like, you could have shown off more stuff about Dragon Quest 3. Like, there's just Project Triangle strategy. Where is it? Like, what's going on with that?
Yeah,
But
there's a lot of stuff from Square Enix that we know about that they just didn't show, which was a little bit disappointing. And I'm not as down on the Final Fantasy stuff as the rest of the internet seemed to be. The Final Fantasy 1 through 6. Um,
yeah,
I thought it was okay. I thought that they should have spent more time on that announcement than other than a 30-second. Hey, we're making Final Fantasy 1 through 6, and they're coming to Steam and mobile, not consoles,
yeah.
for some
I
reason.
I was the I don't think I've gone from like excitement to disappointment um, as fast or as rapidly as I did with that because like they started the first 5 seconds. I'm like, oh, the Final Fantasy is like 1 through 6. The what is this Pixel remasters collection thing? You're gonna put all 6 games together, and then I started getting the idea that, oh, like you've already done like Dragon Quest Three's announcement
Mhm.
where it's getting the octopathified, um, which is I'm gonna make that a word. Um, so I went from thinking that, all right, you're gonna have all six
Yeah.
games in one collection. They're gonna look and maybe even have like a similar gameplay style to Octopath, and then I saw mobile and Steam, and then after the convention or after their showing, uh, it was confirmed that while it says collection, they're selling them individually,
Yeah.
and they're not even using high definition 2D sprites. They're just
They're taking the
cleaning things
they're
up.
taking those NES and Super Nintendo sprites and sort
Yeah.
of downgrading them. Like, they look really nice, but they're not as good as the Super Nintendo sprites. And for the games that got remasters on like the PSP, they look nowhere near as good as the PSP remasters of those games, which were
Yeah.
phenomenal. I think the
Like,
biggest disappointment with the Final Fantasy stuff is that coming off of the heels of that Dragon Quest
yeah.
remaster, these just look like a bit of a disappointment.
Yeah. And they've it's Final Fantasies 1 through 6 have been ported to various different
They've been on
platforms.
everything.
Like that, just I was about to be like, I will spend $100 for 6 games that are in the style of Octopath. The Final Fantasies 1 through 6 are like, really, and then that I'm most likely not going to get these, but
The
because I've already got like a huge collection of Final Fantasy stuff.
the one thing I can say about these is that they are better than those mobile ports that were out previously, those HD ones that just look like they took the sprites and smeared them all.
Yeah,
Um,
which
so that is an improvement. And if these games come to mobile and they have controller support, I'll be fine with that. Like,
yeah,
if I can play these on my phone with a controller, fine. There are some of those that I haven't played in a very long time. I'll take any opportunity I can to replay Final Fantasy IV. You don't have to ask me twice, and I'll do it.
Phenomenal game.
Um,
Phenomenal game.
so yeah, and then there was other stuff with Square Enix that just seemed.
The Babylon's Fall, which had a lot of hype going into this year's E3. People were excited to see something
Mm,
from that. It was announced a few years ago. We haven't really there really hasn't been any like follow up to it, and they started showing it. I was like, okay, this look bad. This they should probably stop this trailer now.
yeah,
This is not this like this looks like an early PS3 title.
I
Like
think
this,
part of the problem that we heard after the show, and like a lot of information came out after the show about some of these
yeah,
things, was that the game is supposed to have a bit more of a cel shaded look, and the way the compression for the video on like the YouTube feeds
yeah,
works, they were saying that it doesn't do the visuals of the game justice. Now we'll see the,
yeah.
when the
The,
games actually come out.
they probably were trying to go for some kind of record for how many times they could say
Oh
chaos
gosh,
with Final Fantasy Origins,
yeah.
or like Stranger in Paradise or Stranger of Paradise,
Yeah, I
or
don't know how many times they mentioned the word chaos.
it's like you all used to be really good at writing stories, and now the what it,
So
the main character
this one
is
is the
just
one
saying
that's
chaos.
being done by Team Ninja, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it kind of gives me like Devil May Cry vibes.
Hmm.
Um, maybe with like a little bit of like an RP. I don't really remember too much of like there's two other characters that were also shown off. Um, but for the most part, the three characters that they showed were fairly forgettable,
Yeah.
which is not a good thing to have as far as like you're trying to show off a new game, and one, people can't get past the fact that you're saying chaos so much, and two, the main three characters just look
They look like the most
super
generic.
generic.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't like what's all the black and gray. Um,
I,
but you know, I just Square Enix aside.
one
Um,
thing. One thing before we move on from Square Enix, that looked phenomenal was Legends of Mana. Like
yeah, I
it.
mean,
It.
I'll give it to them.
It
Yeah,
seems so strange that Square Enix can go from Final Fantasy 1 through 6, which is really their flagship franchise, and how that game look those games look so poor, and then they show
yeah.
right after that a trailer for Legends of Mana, which has incredibly beautiful pixel art.
It's just I don't know who's making the decisions at Square Enix. Like it just as far as like putting the show together, putting these games, greenlighting the games. Like I'm sure they're thinking, yeah, well, even if we only sell a handful of these, we're still selling a handful of these games that we've
Yeah.
already sold, millions and millions and millions of copies of before. But like, come on, like what- you're showing off some incredible stuff, or well, not at this year's E3, um, but with the stuff that they're doing with I keep going back to Project Triangle Strategy because I
Which looks
just
so good.
love the Octopath
That looks
thing.
so
Like
good.
the demo was phenomenal. Like the voicing, just it's so great.
Yeah.
But it's like they started the show off great. Guardians of the Galaxy. Um, the gameplay looks like it's going to be solid. The fact that they're staying away from
Yeah.
microtransactions, no loot boxes, they're not working on DLC for it. They are completely focused on a single player experience,
Hmm.
a single purchase, just a complete package. And then they just in a complete 180, Babylon's Fall being I think they said it's a live game, a live service game,
Yeah.
which I don't really know how.
I want to go back to Ubisoft. They
Okay.
started E3 basically this year. Um,
Yeah.
And I thought their conference was overall, it was average. They showed off all of their shooter franchises. They talked about Assassin's Creed. For the first time, they're going to be supporting an Assassin's Creed game into its second year. It's getting a bunch of DLC, starting with the Siege of Paris, which looks really good. Um,
Yeah.
But the one
actually
game they
support
showed
it.
off that I really, really like and was surprised by was Rainbow Six Extraction. Um,
It gave me like a tactical Left 4 Dead vibe.
a little bit, yeah.
Like,
That game
like
looks phenomenal. Like I didn't play Siege. I'm not a big arena shooter fan, which is what Siege is. So going from that to something like Rainbow Six Extraction, which is a three-player co-op game where they're putting a heavy emphasis on tactics and coordinating with your teammates, that game looks so good.
yeah, yeah. That I'm enjoying because I was a huge fan of Left 4 Dead, and
Yeah,
kind of it's Back for Blood was shown off at E3, or more content about Back for Blood was shown off at E3, and so like kind of seeing these cooperative, uh, zombie apocalyptic
mm-hmm.
virus type things, like where you're actually having to work with people to get through a level. I'm enjoying seeing this return
Yeah,
because
this
they
year
really,
seems to really be the year of the Left 4 Dead clone. There's a bunch of them
yeah,
coming out
yeah,
with this. There's one that we're going to talk about a little bit later in the Microsoft conference from Bethesda with vampires, which looks really cool. Games Workshop has one coming out set in the 40K universe, Dark Dark Tide, I think it's called, which looks
yeah.
phenomenal.
I think so. But yeah, that's it's we're seeing that it's like, okay, Valve's not going to do a Left 4 Dead 3, then other people. In fact, that the team doing Back for Blood did Left 4 Dead. Um, so
Yeah,
Microsoft was very much a front runner, as far as like after the first 2 days, there were
yeah,
good announcements. You had Square Enix, you had Gearbox, you had Ubisoft. So like there was an overall solid performance from E3. Um, but Microsoft, if you're a Game Pass uh, subscriber, you're very well covered.
yeah. After the
They
90
announced,
minutes that Microsoft showed, Game Pass
yeah,
subscribers have a lot to look forward to.
like Bethesda adding 10 more of their games to Game Pass, which I saw.
Yeah.
I think Game Pass is going to have all of the Fallout's. I think
Yes,
I think
everything
I
from
saw like
Fallout
1, 2.
1 all the way up through 76.
So yeah, like that's going to be phenomenal for anybody wanting to go back and kind of see the roots of that franchise. They showed off
Uh,
like Yakuza Like
yeah,
a Dragon,
Yakuza Like a
uh,
Dragon. That was what I was going to say.
which phenomenal RPG. If you haven't checked it out, it was my game of the year for 2020.
That yeah,
It's
that
great.
and that one is on the cloud version of Game Pass as well with touch controls.
Which
So,
I'm not quite sure how. I mean, I I'm not really into like with the recent episode that we did. I'm not really into the streaming and stuff, but I would like to check that out just to see how they handle the game with touch
yeah.
controls. I think I would still prefer a physical controller, but I'm curious just to see because I mean I could see it functioning just fine. Um, but like they showed off some new content for Sea of Thieves.
Mm.
Rare getting to
Oh,
really
I'm playing
flex
that
even
day
more
one.
creative. The Jack Sparrow bringing the Pirates of the Caribbean collaboration to Sea of Thieves. Like I, it was funny. It just looks like it's going to be a
Mm.
good time. Like um, I want to see just what else they do with that.
Yeah, it's
And
sort of the biggest no-brainer collaboration between
yeah,
IP that we've
like
seen. I'm surprised it took this long to get any Pirates of the Caribbean stuff into the game, and they've done it by bringing a whole story mode with some of your favorite characters from the Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
yeah, like Davy Jones. Is is he the big bad that they're all going up against?
I would
Or
assume so. Yes.
but yeah, like Davy Jones and of course Jack Sparrow. Um, it's Sea of Thieves, a Pirates.
Pirate's Life, I think, is what it's called.
So yeah, that like I said, the humor seems to be there, and I can't wait to see what
Yeah.
they do. And I like the fact that Microsoft is allowing Rare to
Yeah.
really double down on this IP because it had it had a rocky launch, but they've stuck with it.
Mhm.
They've worked with it. They've added a lot of content.
Yeah, I've had a ton of fun in Sea of Thieves.
So and it's a great concept of being able to like team up with other people and just play as pirates. Um, but then they had like the new Stalker games coming to Game
Mhm.
Pass. I think is also coming to Xbox first. I think first 6 months or something.
Yeah,
Uh, Coming to Xbox. They announced. I don't think they really showed much, but Contraband, um, kind of earlier in the show. So like Microsoft definitely brought it started to feel like E3 again. Like
hmm
you know it it was definitely one of those things where it was solid up to the Microsoft conference or convention or show or whatever, and then it was just an announcement after announcement
yeah.
after announcement. They're gearing for like 6 months, uh, where they've got an exclusive title
Every
hitting
month, yeah.
Xbox. So
Yeah, Microsoft showed off 30 games, and it was 30 pretty solid looking games, and 27 of them are going to be available on Game Pass day one for subscribers. So there's
um,
tons of stuff coming. I have that Game Pass subscription, and it will be getting a lot of use over the next few months. Did you see
uh,
the footage for the new Forza Horizon game?
I did not.
Oh
I think I
man,
missed out on that one,
that game
but
looks gorgeous. They talked very heavily about all the work they did with the environments, and going and getting photogrammetry data down in Mexico, which is where the game takes place. And there were a couple of shots where they showed a landscape, and you could not tell that it was a video game. It looked like you were looking at a video feed from Mexico, and then the cars from the game drove by, and it was just phenomenal.
well, we're finally reaching that point where, because like racing games are typically used as a great
Mm,
benchmark for new tech and just like showing off just what the graphical
yeah.
capabilities of the new hardware can do. Um, was Is the new Forza game, is that focused on Series S and X, or are they doing an Xbox One?
It
Um,
is Series X and S. It is Series X and S. I guess it is both. Exclusive.
okay.
It will not be on Xbox One.
Kind of talked a little bit about Ubisoft. I think they had a good showing. Of course,
Hmm
you had one of uh, your wish list items got addressed with the new Mario and
Oh
Rabbids
yes.
Spark of
Oh
Hope.
yeah. I went nuts when that trailer uh, dropped. We had seen earlier in the day, Nintendo accidentally leaked an image of the title, and so we knew it was coming. But getting to see it in motion was, I my jaw dropped. The game looks incredible. Like I loved that first game so much. Um,
It got the Rabbids feel. I know I was watching I think it was the E3 coverage, like the one that Greg Miller from Kind of Funny Games was hosting, and the panel team there, like a few of them were loving the representation of Rosalina.
mhm. Yeah,
Just
with the Rabbit Rosalina.
yeah, just the okay, I guess I will join you.
Yeah, yeah. I saw a
Um,
lot of people being like, "Rabbit Rosalina is a mood." So she was like, I don't want to do this, but okay, fine, let's go, let's
yeah.
go." Yeah, that
Um,
is instantly day one purchase for me. That's not till next year, unfortunately. I was hoping it would be out this year, but we'll get to it later. Nintendo has a stacked lineup for the rest of this year, so uh,
and that's with Ubisoft, it was cool to kind of see that they are putting some more support between or behind Assassin's Creed. There's new stuff for Watchdogs Legion, a new Just Dance game, which I think you made a joke about.
it's the end of an era. It is.
Yeah,
It is. I was saddened when this trailer dropped. Not because Just Dance. Like I don't care about Just Dance at all.
yeah.
But it is the first time since 2006 that a brand new game will not release on the Wii, and it made me just a little bit sad to not see that Wii logo with a Just Dance game.
Oh, we've finally gotten to the point that the Wii can rest.
The
It
Wii is
can
officially dead at this point.
Ubisoft wanted to make sure that they were the last ones to release something for that platform, and
Yeah.
I think they feel like they've outlasted everybody else. Nintendo Direct. Um, I personally didn't get to see much about it. I got to see like
Oh,
some snippets about Kazuya getting added to Smash,
I
which
I started the day today tweeting that I have no idea what to expect from Nintendo at all. No expectations whatsoever. So anything they would have announced would have been, probably fairly well received with me, unless it was just remasters of all the Rabbids games. Um, but yeah, Nintendo blew everybody away. I think the internet was just going nuts over the stuff that Nintendo um, showed off. Yeah, they started. I know you said you didn't, so I guess I'll kind of take the lead
yeah,
with this. They started with the Smash trailer, which at first I thought was a Zelda trailer, but the weird thing was they showed somebody carrying Ganondorf's dead body up a hill. So I thought this is a weird way to start a Zelda trailer, but then I realized the art style matches Smash Brothers trailers far more than it does any Zelda stuff. And it was Kazuya Mishima from Tekken carrying Ganondorf up to the top of a volcano and throwing him in.
which
If you're a Tekken fan, you know exactly what that means.
yeah,
Uh,
it's a good throwback or a good reference
yeah.
to Tekken. Um, and man, like what is the size of that roster now?
Oh, it's
Like,
it's closing in on 100 characters. I don't know. It's somewhere between 70 and 80, I think, at this point.
and I feel like third parties are now just like, okay, well, we've got to we have to get some representation in this game.
There's only one
Like,
character left, so I am on record saying that the final Smash character, when they finally announce that, will be Waluigi. That is my prediction. That I think they will finally do it with the very last character they're going to release for Smash Ultimate.
do you think they'll do
No,
another
I
DLC
don't.
run, or
I
do you
don't. I
think
think this is
okay,
it. They're ready, I think, to be done with Smash Brothers. I think Sakurai is ready to not have to record any more, uh, you know, character introductions. I think it's time for him to be able to move on. If he wants to move on to something else, move on to something else, or take a vacation because the man needs to rest.
I mean, he puts a lot of passion and energy into just everything Smash. So
Life is
good.
Strange is coming to the Switch. The new game Life is Strange, True Colors, and then also a remaster of the first games will be out later
Which
in the year.
they've
Uh,
they've been talking about that. I wish they would have shown some new stuff,
yeah.
but but yeah.
The first three Monkey Ball games are getting remasters on the Switch. Those will all be out on October 5th in a compilation. So it's a collection of three games. It's Super Monkey Ball 2, and Super Monkey Ball Deluxe, which I will be playing. Love the Super Monkey Ball games. Um, Mario Party is getting another entry in October, on October 29th. It's Mario Party Superstars, which is a collection of some of the best games from the N64 era of Mario Party.
All right.
And then
That
they followed that up with the biggest out of left field announcement I think they could have made. They came on, they said Metroid Prime 4 is in development. We can't talk about it right now. We don't have anything to show. But have a look at this game. I thought it was going to be the Prime Trilogy finally, or something like that. But no, they showed off the uh, probably biggest surprise they could have done and announced that Metroid Dread is a real thing. It's been 16 years since it was originally even hinted at. Um, but
it exists.
Metroid Dread is a thing. It is real. It takes place right after Metroid Fusion. It is being developed by the same developers that did the Samus Returns remaster for the 3DS. It will be out on October 8th. It is a 2D side-scrolling Metroid game, and it looks amazing. Metroid is getting
Uh,
amiibo, so
well,
Good luck.
That's
There you go. They're getting a 2-pack of Samus and then one of the new enemy characters, which is called Emmy. It's EMMI, which is short for something. I don't remember what it is, but it is a robotic, like 4-legged sentry. Looks kind of like that Boston Dynamics robot dog thing. It's like a cross
well,
between that and GLaDOS from Portal, is what it reminds me of. WarioWare. There's a new WarioWare game coming on September 10th. It's called WarioWare Get It Together. For the first time, it will have 2-player micro games. Shin Megami Tensei 5 finally got a release date. It will be out on November 12th.
about time.
Then another huge, oh my gosh, my jaw hit the floor when I saw that the announcement of Advance Wars, which not expecting that at all. I love the Advance Wars series. We are getting a remaster or a remake really of Advance Wars 1 and 2 that were GBA games released back in 2001 and 2002, I believe.
That's because yeah, it's been a long time since we've had an Advance Wars game.
Yeah, back on the DS, Dual Strike. There were 2, I think, on the DS, Days of Ruin and Dual Strike, and those were the last time we got Advance Wars games. They've been focused. Intelligent Systems have been focused on Fire Emblem since then. They're actually not doing the remakes of Advance Wars. That is being handled by Way Forward.
Well, that just means that Intelligent Systems can work on something else, like maybe more Fire Emblem.
They're probably working on more Fire Emblem, or maybe it's probably too early for Paper Mario. We'll see.
Because yeah, they had the Origami King not too long ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Then Nintendo announced new hardware. They ended the Direct with a focus on The Legend of Zelda. And The Legend of Zelda is getting a Game & Watch similar to the one that they released for Mario. Was it last year, I believe? So it looks exactly the same, except instead of red plastic, it's green plastic. And it will come bundled with 4 games, actually. And that's the original Legend of Zelda, Zelda 2, and the Game Boy version of Link's Awakening, as well as a version of the Game & Watch game Vermin, which I think originally starred Mr. Game & Watch. He has been reskinned as Link. So, and you're like bopping Octoroks or something on the head. That will be out.
It's kind of new hardware,
Yeah, I mean, it technically is new hardware, and that'll be out later this year, I think in December.
Just in time for the Christmas shopping season.
Yeah. They showed off a little bit of Skyward Sword. Not much. It was like a very brief little bit, because they wanted to then get into what they ended the Nintendo Direct with, and that was a teaser trailer for Breath of the Wild 2.
Were you surprised or disappointed that they didn't have anything more than the teaser for Breath of the Wild 2?
I was firmly under the impression that the game was not going to be out this year, and that is the case. It won't be out till next year. It's probably going to be their holiday game next year, if I had to take a guess now. But they showed off about a minute and a half worth of stuff. They showed off Link. Looks like now he has some sort of, his arm has been sort of, not infested, but has some of that misty red stuff from like the first game is on his arm now, and it looks like he's got a bit of a mechanical arm at some point. They also showed him falling from the sky from a very great height, because the game now has floating islands in it.
Oh,
similar to Skyward Sword.
It wasn't big enough.
So yeah,
it wasn't big enough.
Now you can see there were a couple spots where they showed Link running around on the ground. You could just see islands everywhere up in the sky. So I'm interested in seeing how those come about story-wise. This takes place, I think, 2 years after the events of Breath of the Wild. So I'm really interested in seeing what happens and where these islands came from, because they were not in the first game. You couldn't see them, you couldn't access them. So I'm really, really curious to see some more about this game, because I'll be playing it day one, guaranteed. uh, but it looks really good. Like it's come. It looks like a pretty good improvement over the first game visually as well. So they're not just slapping some extra missions into the Breath of the Wild engine and saying, "Here you go. Here's a new Zelda game." There's a lot of stuff going into this that's going to make it look and feel very different to Breath of the Wild.
We've talked about the importance of E3. We had our very first episode. We talked about just going into this year, just how things were going to pan out for the convention. The relevance of it, if it's even necessary to have, and even though there was some uh, rocky moments within E3 2021, I still feel like it was a good showing.
Mm-hmm.
That it was a solid convention that obviously next year hopefully COVID won't be
Yeah,
as much of a factor for E3 2022. Um, but I think all things considered, it was still a solid show. Um, and hopefully we're starting to get the pipeline going again
mm-hmm.
as far as like the announcements. And I know Sony's got something that they've got rumored that they're going to be doing later this month. It's
Yeah.
not going to be tied into E3. Then you got Gamescom, and then obviously like Tokyo Game
Tokyo
Show.
Game Show. Yeah.
So I'm excited to see just this kind of return to normal. But I would overall I would say that E3 2021 was a solid show, and I'd probably give it about a B if I was to grade it on
Yeah.
a scale.
I think overall I'd probably give it a C or a C minus. Just there was some disappointments. Um, the,
Square
the
Enix.
the Prime Matter event is the textbook. Don't do this for an E3 show in the future. I don't know if you saw that one. Um, like there was a
Yeah.
lot of really interesting information, but that is not an E3 type show that they put on. That is a GDC type show. Um, which, if it had been in that context, would have been great. The developers all sounded like they were really passionate about their games and gave you a lot of interesting information, but they didn't show a single thing. It was all tell and not show, whereas
Yeah.
Microsoft and Nintendo went show and not tell, and you can see by the
Yeah.
response to those two press conferences versus everything else that they were the ones that everybody gravitated toward to and really really liked because they just showed game after game after game after game and didn't spend time talking about it. They showed you.
They're like, hey, this is what we've been working on, and we hope that
Yeah.
that you find something that you enjoy, because we're covering everything.
Yeah.
We're every genre, every interest point, where we got you covered. This is a good time to sign off.
I think so.
Anything else you want to throw in there real quick?
No. Just listen to the procedurally generated show on Tuesday for our full and like maybe even more thoughts on E3. With a longer form show than even this. So.
All right. Well, I am Jeff,
And I'm Tony.
and we will see you with the next episode of Gamervision, hopefully next week.
Yes.